people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the mother relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. A few words from world title challenger Isaac Cruz, who's warning Romero to fight as boldly as he talks. Romero, the WBA junior welterweight title holder, has been throwing his words around like thunderous power punches. Cruz, seeking his first world title, has had very little to say in return until sending a stern warning to Romero during Monday's virtual press conference. I hope he fights the way he talks on March 30th, Cruz said. That is what I am getting ready for.
And a few words.
It is not that hard, Cruz said of finding good sparring for the fight. After Romero said he would have trouble finding appropriate sparring partners, cowards who really don't like to fight, I can find that anywhere.
Ouch.
Rolly Romero, ahead of this fight, has since dropped his longtime trainer, Coach Bullet, and enlisted the aid of veteran trainer Ismail Salas. Sports a diverse portfolio of fighters that he's worked with, anyone from Joe Joyce to Kazuto Ioka to Rolly Romero now. Will that help? Will that secure Rolly the victory?
We'll find out on Saturday.
At minimum, what it means is that Rolly Romero felt that whatever he's been doing with Coach Bullet may not be enough to beat Isaac Cruz, that he's feeling the gravity of the situation.
Otherwise, why would he have gotten rid of him?
Been together for years. The trainer swap can't be because he felt Coach Bullet would be able to get him ready for this fight, and he wants to be ready. Clearly he does.
Yeah.
Wants to be ready for Isaac.
Yeah.
Isaac Cruz, who is on a 3-fight winning streak, having most recently beaten Giovanni Cabrera in a tight split decision victory. Romero won his world title over Ismael Barroso via a controversial stoppage when referee Tony Weeks stopped the bout during an exchange while Barroso was punching back. That was Romero's first fight since losing to Davis via a 6th-round knockout in 2022. All I am doing right now is getting ready to shut his mouth. Punch by punch, Cruz said. With every punch, he's going to talk a little less.
Serious.
Because that's what Rolly's known for. Rolly's known for what he says, not what he does. He's known for sound bites, not victories. He's more known for his sound bites and his hijinks than his boxing. As it pertains to his boxing, most people feel he shouldn't even be a champion right now.
It's ridiculous. He hasn't fought since then.
The Ismael Barroso fight was in May of last year, approximately 10 months ago. Rolly Romero has not seen action since then, but he has since changed trainers, which means the night of, he's going to be experimenting with a new corner, whereas Isaac last saw action in July of last year, a bit more recently.
He's a pressure guy.
He has to be. Due to his small stature, he doesn't have a choice but to rush his opponents and crowd the pocket to let punches go. He doesn't have the dimensions to be anything other than a pressure fighter. He can't be an outside guy, an outside fighter. He's not tall enough, not long enough to manage the distance. Thus, he has to barrel forward.
Come forward.
He's going to come forward on Rolly, and we'll see how Rolly deals with it. As crude as pressure fighters may seem, from the outside looking in, as crude as they may seem to the observer, for the guy that's actually in there with them, their approach is simple. May seem simple to the observer, not so simple to the guy that has to fight them. When it's your head, the guy's trying to take off. To deal with a pressure fighter, it takes coordination, movement, timing, framing.
Poise.
Stick to the plan. Keep your composure under pressure, as a pressure fighter will have you under pressure.
Takes poise.
Does Rolly pack a big enough punch to hurt Isaac? Maybe he does, but the same is true in reverse, with the difference being that I think Isaac is more durable than Rolly.
Takes a better punch.
They share a common opponent in Gervonta Davis, and where Isaac went the distance with Gervonta, Rolly couldn't. Rolly got stopped at the midway point. So in terms of who takes a better punch, yeah, I think Isaac takes a better punch than Rolly. I think he's got more punch resistance.
Yeah.
Got a big fucking head.
Maybe that's why.
What's interesting is that both Rolly and Isaac tried to come forward on Gervonta Davis and put him under pressure. The difference between them, it got Rolly knocked out, whereas Isaac finished the fight on his feet, never lost his footing, and heard the final bell. Thus, I think he's the more durable fighter of the two, takes the better punch, and I can't trust
That Rolly can keep him out, or that Rolly can work around him.
You got a gift over Elvis Rodriguez. Another gift over Ishmael Barroso.
I don't trust his boxing acumen.
And I don't trust his punch resistance. So even with the alterations that Rolly has made to his corner in preparation for this fight, I'm still leaning towards Isaac to win it. I think Isaac wins it. I think maybe he stops Rolly.
And I think it means more to him.
Becoming a world champion, because Isaac comes from a family of fighters. His father was a fighter, and his grandfather before him, his aunt, Erica Cruz. She's a fighter. She's a champion. I think Isaac wants it more.
I'm going with Isaac to win.
Who's your division? Which one do you think would be the easiest, or which one do you think would be the most difficult to prepare for?
Varying styles make fights, so you gotta bring certain things out your arsenal to kind of like execute one and become victorious. A lot of people would say Devin Haney would be more difficult, but honestly, I gotta wash my hands and walk at Devin. Do it the right way. Like I said, Regis supposedly did it, but honestly, I don't think his heart was all with it. He could have did it. He had all the attributes to do it. He came in shape. He got a little bit of pop. He got a little bit of ample hand speed. I don't think his heart was in it, or he didn't have the game plan to do the shit. Other than that, I walk at that easy, behind a couple jabs, make him stay there with me. All this running like a chicken, you go ahead and do that. You gonna get fatigued. You have to keep a jab on me. I'm gonna slip, block, cut the ring off. I'm gonna apply that pressure. He's the one that I feel like he's gonna make it win, so he go 12 rounds. At least he's gonna try to. Other than any other opponents he got.
This coming from the guy who rejected a world title shot.
What?
A world title opportunity with then champion Alberto Puello. Yeah, I don't believe you, Gary. I don't. I remember way back there in 2022, there was supposed to be a fight set between Gary and then champion Alberto Puello. And in so many words, what Gary said was, when being a student of the game, you must consider the fact that every step a contestant takes is more than just self-gratification, and each and every last one of us do it for keeps. In other words, Puello's got to catch up to me. He is behind me. No need to look back when the direction you're going is forward.
What?
You know that by that reckoning, Devin Haney has no reason to look back. Devin Haney has no reason to look at you or give you an opportunity since you're talking about him. He's moving forward. What are you doing? Turning down title shots.
Gary would have won that fight. He would have become a world champion and would have had something to bring to the table to a Devin Haney fight, because he certainly doesn't bring marquee value to the table.
You don't bring no money to the table. You don't really bring a name.
No.
But at least if you would have had a belt, you would have been able to bring that. You walked away from that. You want us to believe that you're confident enough to go in there with Devin Haney when you weren't confident enough to go in there with Alberto Puello. Is that how it works?
Maybe he's more receptive to a Devin Haney fight because Devin Haney, he does have more of a name.
He does.
Than an Alberto Puello. Maybe that's why he wants it. He's talking about it.
He figures he'll get more money for a Devin Haney fight than whatever he would have got for an Alberto Puello fight, though all the same, I don't think he's really as confident or as capable as he lets on, because if he was, then handling an Alberto Puello should have been easy. You should have grabbed that opportunity with both hands. You walked away from it.
I don't think it's because how confident you were.
So now you think you're going to talk your way into a title shot? Talk your way into a Devin Haney fight? Gary last saw action in July of last year. It's the only fight that he had last year, and it was against some fucking nobody.
Being so hard on a guy for?
I'm not being hard on him, I'm just being honest. This is an irrelevant fighter who is trying to talk himself into relevancy instead of doing what he needs to do.
I'm a customer.
Here to see the fights, not to hear Gary postulate or turn down world title opportunities, then bloviate afterwards.
No.
You thought you were too good for Alberto Puello. By that reckoning, Devin's too good for you.
You said that fighting Alberto Puello would be a step backwards. Devin could say the same thing about you.
The fucking nerve.
It doesn't stop. Gvozdyk goes 12 rounds. Are we still
Here you
thinking
go.
that he's going to beat
Here you go. He ain't trying to interject negativity. The monster is a monster. If he don't stop Gvozdyk, he's gonna beat the shit out of Gvozdyk for 12 rounds. 12
And
rounds.
that's what he's gonna do against a
Where we gonna be questioning the ref and the fact that he should be suspended for not stopping him.
Once again, I have to agree with that caller who called in to the Boxing Voice. It is going to be a little bit hard to keep trying to sell David Benavidez as a monster, this monster, if he doesn't stop Alexander Gvozdyk.
I don't think he's a monster.
Few particulars aside, when Samson Lukowicz, David Benavidez's longtime promoter, spoke to Nestor Gibbs of the Boxing Voice, he said they would be willing to cancel the Gvozdyk fight to face Canelo Alvarez in September.
That's what he said.
And from the moment that Canelo Alvarez signed that 3-fight deal, I was of the opinion that that's when that fight would happen, the fight between Canelo and David. I always felt might happen in September.
It's a 3-fight deal. You're not going to make the biggest fight the first fight of the deal or even the second fight.
The deal has since been restructured. I understand that. It's not a 3-fight deal anymore. This deal that he has with the PBC is said to be a 1-fight deal now, a one-off.
All the same.
I think it happens in September, just somewhere around there. Though because Sampson said that they would call off the Gvozdyk fight to face Canelo Alvarez in September, I am a bit ambivalent.
Is the Gvozdyk fight going to happen?
Because we know which one of those two fights is a priority, and it is ill-advised to move up in weight, then move back down.
That's a no-no.
So we're going to have this conversation on the premise that he does fight Gvozdyk. He does fight him on the undercard of Gervonta Davis versus Frank Martin in June. It goes through. It happens.
Let's go with that.
The caller who called into the Boxing Voice is holding David Benavidez's feet to the fire, saying that if he doesn't stop Gvozdyk, how's he a monster?
How's that?
What's monstrous about him?
It doesn't stop. Gvozdyk goes 12 rounds. Are we still
Here you
thinking
go.
that he's going to beat
Here you go. He ain't trying to interject negativity. The monster is a monster. If he don't stop Gvozdyk, he's gonna beat the shit out of Gvozdyk for 12 rounds. 12
And
rounds.
that's what he's gonna do
Where we gonna be questioning the ref and the fact that he should be suspended for not stopping him.
Like he beat the shit out of Caleb Plant?
What's become a sore spot for many a David Benavidez fan, that Canelo Alvarez faced an unbeaten Caleb Plant, a reigning champion. He dropped him 2 times, he stopped him.
David couldn't. Even though David is bigger, even though David is younger, even though David is supposed to be the Mexican monster
That throws more punches per round than Canelo Alvarez.
he couldn't get the knockout the same way that Canelo Alvarez did. He couldn't get the knockout even though he promised to. He promised to knock out Caleb Plant.
Surprise, surprise.
Now what his supporters have taken to doing is being obtuse and disingenuous about the fight's aesthetic and how it all played out. They tell themselves that the beating David put on Caleb was worse than what he suffered at the hands of Canelo, when with Canelo, he couldn't even finish the fight on his feet, but with David, he did. So how was it worse?
What was worse about it? He was never knocked down throughout the course of the fight.
He wasn't knocked out, so what made it worse? What was worse about it?
They're exaggerating.
They're trying to make the contest seem like a one-sided contest, like a one-sided affair. That's what they do. When they talk to me and you,
They're exaggerating.
I guarantee you, Benavidez is gonna put him in a goddamn casket.
Like he
Bottom
did
line.
Caleb? Like
And
he
your
did
boy
Caleb?
knows it. And he knows
Like
it.
he did Caleb? Like he did Caleb?
Absolutely. Hopefully he won't hang on for dear life for 12 goddamn rounds.
Caleb was still standing at the end of that fight,
Brother,
no matter how.
brother.
he literally was, which is a statement of fact, not opinion, not subject to debate. At no point in that fight did Caleb Plant lose his footing, get knocked down, or get knocked out. Moreover, it wasn't one-sided. 2 of the 3 judges had Caleb Plant winning most of the first half.
I did too.
It was only Steve Weisfeld. It was only Steve Weisfeld that was the odd man out that had it lopsided. But the other 2 judges, it was competitive at the start, which is what I said would happen. That David is basic. David is limited. And while Caleb Plant has gas in the tank, he's likely going to win the early rounds, which he did. It's in the middle.
Don't lose focus.
David's fans are exaggerating because it wasn't one-sided.
I saw the same fight you did.
For long spells, long stretches of the match at the start, Caleb Plant was outboxing David Benavidez because of how basic he is, but we've long known about Caleb Plant's gas tank issues, that round the middle, he starts to fade.
Yeah.
His output.
Doesn't throw as many punches, starts getting hit.
That's why I picked David to beat him. That's why I picked David to knock him out. Except he didn't.
He won.
But he didn't knock him out. In spite of being bigger, in spite of being younger, in spite of throwing more punches than Canelo did, and landing more punches than Canelo did, he couldn't knock him out. He couldn't even knock him down.
So how is he a monster?
How is this worse than what Canelo did to Caleb?
In what way?
I guarantee you, Benavidez is gonna put him in a goddamn casket.
Like he
Bottom
did
line.
Caleb? Like
And
he
your
did
boy
Caleb?
knows it. And he knows
Like
it.
he did Caleb? Like he did Caleb?
Absolutely. Hopefully he won't hang on for dear life for 12 goddamn rounds.
Caleb was still standing at the end of that fight,
Brother,
no matter how.
brother.
You would think it's a discussion that these individuals were after, based on how adamant they are about David Benavidez and what he can do and who he is or he's supposed to be, when in reality, all they're doing is venting.
It's not a discussion because they're not hearing the other side.
They don't want to. The facts and the stats don't tell the story that they're telling. They don't want to hear the facts of the matter, the facts and the stats, because they don't deal in facts. They deal in emotion.
Do you think that your argument thereby becomes more valid based on how many decibels you can reach?
Your argument is now validated based on how loud you can yell.
Why are you yelling?
Because they're trying to tune out the world, tune out anyone that does not agree with them, while at the same time requesting an audience.
If you're shouting over people, it's not because you want to hear the opposing argument. It's not because you want to hear what they have to say. You just want to be heard.
All I hear is hyperbole in tandem with gross exaggerations that misrepresent the contest and the facts of the matter.
That's it.
They're just angry that they can't refute what I'm saying, but that doesn't settle their own feelings. They don't agree with me.
But who said you have to?
I didn't. I can only tell you what I think and what that's based on. I can only tell you what I think. And if you want to know what I think, and you're here, so I'll assume that you do.
David couldn't stop Caleb.
Now he's fighting Alexander. There's no guarantee that he stops him.
This is a bigger guy than Caleb Plant, a naturally bigger guy than any of the guys you normally see David in there with. A bigger puncher, too.
You couldn't stop Caleb, and this guy's got a lot more size than Caleb. More size than the guys you normally fight.
More power, too.
Guys David Benavidez normally fights, who are we talking about? Kyron Davis? Ronald Ellis? Caleb Plant? Demetrius Andrade? These are not power punchers. These are not heavy-handed punchers.
If they get off a couple of shots, it may not have as much mustard on them as if Gvozdyk gets off a couple of shots. If Gvozdyk lands. We saw what he did to Adonis Stevenson years ago. He almost killed him.
I understand that was a few years ago, and now it's a few years later, but you know what they say. Power, when it comes to power, power is the last thing to go, and he's not too old that he may have retained his power.
I don't think his power went anywhere. Still think he has power. More than David's average opponent anyway.
He is a more long and limber fighter than the fighters you often see David in there with. Most of the time, he's bearing down on them, towering over them, whereas Alexander, he's a tall guy, long guy. He's got some size. He can move around.
Yeah, but he was stopped by Antuanne-Russell.
Yeah, and Caleb Plant was stopped by Canelo, but he wasn't stopped by David Benavidez. So what are we really talking about here?
Stop it.
When the caller questions whether or not David Benavidez can actually stop Alexander Gvozdyk, and what should the perception of him be if he doesn't?
He's no Antuanne-Russell.
He's no monster. I don't think he's a monster, but you know what? He's welcome to prove me wrong.
That's what the fights are for.
If I'm off base in my assertions, then go in there and prove it. That's what we're here to see anyway, isn't it?